Well, hello, hello. What's up, everybody? It's me, LC. I am your transgender mentor, and welcome to Sunday Night Soul Sessions. Tonight, I have the great pleasure of bringing on my guest host, Miss Pamela Topjian. She is the creator of Breakthrough Hypnotherapy, which is just I can't tell you, Pamela, not only just her friendship, but, working with her in the ways that we've worked together through hypnotherapy has really been life-changing for myself, and it's done so much for my wife and our healing as well. So I'm always grateful to have her on this broadcast with me. Now, let me explain a little bit about what this Sunday Soul session is and what the transgender mentor actually is here to represent. I'm here to bring humanity back to, well, not even back together, because I don't know that we've ever truly been together. But I wanted to let my life and experience do something positive in the world. Pamela and I were just talking about leaving a positive impact on the world. And that's what I need to use my 22 years of hellish active addiction in result of my childhood trauma, into the trauma and the shame of hiding who I was as a trans human being. And now to be able to share this transition, my healing and recovery journey with other people that may be going through some of this same stuff. Now, Pamela herself is a cisgendered human being and has just a heart that wants to see people brought together and wants to expand, evolve, and connect through understanding. So that's what we're here to do on the Transgender Mentors Sunday Night Soul Sessions. And I am just super excited to be here. If you watch this on the replay, I want to ask you to make sure that you put hashtag replay in the comments so that we can come along and thank you for being here and your support. If you're here live with us and you feel led, share this out to someone that maybe you feel like you've got something you want to say and you just maybe haven't gotten your point across, or someone that you feel like you want to connect closer with. Maybe they can grab something from either one of our experiences. And also, please keep your comments and your questions respectful, but please feel free to make comments or tell us what you struggle with, or some of the ways that you have overcome any of the things in your life that you've gone through, or ways that you have been in contact with your family. We want to hear from you. And we are announcing the new Transgender Mentor private Facebook group. So be sure to go over and become a member of the group, where we will do exclusive content simply there and open up more discussions. So, but for now, I'm so ready to get into this conversation with my guest host, Pamela Topjian of Breakthrough Hypnotherapy. So if you all are ready, we are ready. So let's go. Pamela Topjian, hello. Welcome back to
Thank you.
Sunday
Thank you.
Soul Session live with you and me. I'm grateful to have you here. You
I'm
have
so
done
honored to be a part of this. I really am. Thank you
well.
so much.
I'm just grateful that you came along, and just I trust your heart and what you want to see happen in the world, what we've experienced in our friendship, and that openness is the reason that I really wanted to bring this out. And I'm really just grateful to have you here, your wisdom and your true nature and your true heart. So I am grateful. What's up, Pam V? She says good afternoon. I forget it's good afternoon for you guys on the West Coast.
Well, it is, 5, so.
Well, I know, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's like bedtime here where I
Yeah,
am.
I know it's getting dark over there.
Well, you've been had this amazing ability to connect with a lot of people on through social media, people that have asked those questions and these hard questions,
Yeah.
and whether it be trans people or LGBTQ
Mhm.
plus human beings or, cisgendered people, which let's go ahead, we will remind that cisgender actually only means that you are at home in the gender in which you were born in. So, I don't know what the C and the I and the S actually stand for. I will not pretend, but that's what it means. So, if you were born a girl and you're just happy being a girl, then you would be cisgendered. Same for males. So
Right.
that's no different. But
Just being
so
comfortable in your gender that you
that's it.
were born in. Yeah.
That's so true. That's so true. But I know that the alphabet there, it's getting pretty long and longer every day.
Right.
And it's getting a bit confusing, and I understand that.
Yeah.
So you've gotten a question about that this week, correct?
Yeah, the thing is, it's really interesting because I've been sharing on social media all week and even before this week about, asking the questions and reaching out to you or me. And also that, I am a little more available. So, people can, will get an answer from me quicker, just because I'm not,
Yeah.
working other than, at home. Um, so, so yeah, so the interesting thing to me is that I've been getting quite a few questions that are the same questions from a few different people. So that
Outstanding.
really shows me that there's a lot of confusion out there. And so one of the things you were just talking about the alphabet. And I've seen it referred to as the alphabet mafia,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I think that's kind of an interesting way to say it, but that's what
It
it's
is.
turning into, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's really true. Now, we so when we talk about the L, B, G,
Yep.
T, and Q. When
Yep.
we get down to the pluses, we're talking about there's so many different ones. I think there's
Mhm.
IA and
Mhm.
AA. So we're talking about lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender. And a lot of people will say queer, but I believe it to be more the questioning. And
Mm.
and I
Yeah.
think that that's really what's there is people that are just questioning their gender, and it happens to be more happening now where younger people are
Yeah.
questioning their attraction or who they're attracted to. I think
Mhm.
necessarily we're moving away from those strict, very rigid, this is
Right.
right and this is wrong, to people realizing, well, wait, is that true for me?
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful to see people start to think and feel on their own. Now,
Yeah.
one thing that's pretty confusing about that, though, for people is that the T that's thrown into there
Mhm.
it really shouldn't go there. And I'll say this, I'll tell you why. Because the lesbian, the gay, and the bisexual, even the questioning, these
Mhm.
all have to do with attraction,
Right.
sexual attraction, and the transgender is the only gender based, you know, ideology in there.
Yeah.
And
Because those that are questioning wouldn't be questioning if they were transgender. They would have
right.
known it since they were little, or
I
known that they didn't feel right as being
right.
a little boy or a little girl, or
Right.
didn't identify that way, whether they had the words or not. So they would have already known that part of it.
That was my experience. Now, I was a person that knew when I was 4 years old,
Yeah.
immediately that the gender that I was being placed in and happened to be, and even though I didn't understand that that wasn't the case for me. And I have talked to other trans humans that have said that they really realized it later in life, but I'm kind of with you. I believe there were probably warnings, red flags in there
Oh yeah.
somewhere. I think for the female to male population, it's easier to blend in with the lesbian crowd and to think,
Mhm.
okay, well, if I am, I'm attracted to females, but not all trans people, not all female to
Right.
males are attracted to females.
And
That's
the same the other way. Any trans
right.
people can be, they can be gay, lesbian, they can be bisexual. That's one of the differences too. Whereas lesbian, gay, bisexual, they're specific on who they're
Yes.
attracted to. But
Yes.
like you said, the transgender, that's why we say gender, because it has everything to do with the gender and nothing
Absolutely.
to do with who they're attracted to, who they're romantically attracted to. And it
Yep.
could be anything, it could be just, it could be the same sex, it could be the opposite sex, you know, wherever they are in their transition.
Yep.
And yeah, so, um,
And
so
let's
one
say
thing,
this. Well, sorry to cut you
no,
off,
it's
but
okay.
I also want to include the people that have to begin a physical transition and still really identify as being transgender, because
Yeah.
there are people that I've met only through online that
Hmm.
have not gone through any type of physical transitioning,
Yeah.
even down to hormones, that still identify as trans. Now that could be because they don't want to confuse their system, or it could be that there's not trans health care is not available where they live. This is a
Right.
very small, very specific um, set of health care, and there's not a lot of professionals that are involved in this care. So
Right.
that's what I hope that we change as we go along.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I wanted to mention that I was going to say was that the one thing I've heard from a few different people is people in my generation who have family members. They might not be their children or their grandchildren, but they might be, just somewhere along in the family that are teens. Then the teens are starting to come out as whatever they're coming out as, something
Mm-hmm.
other than cisgendered,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the families, I think that, you were talking about it being a little more, people are more aware, and it's a little more acceptable for the teens, not everywhere, maybe not where you are, but in some of the
Mm-hmm.
bigger areas, it's a little more acceptable. People are, when you're a teen, you're already questioning your identity. You're always trying,
Yeah.
already trying to find yourself and who you are and where you
Yeah.
belong in the world, and transitioning to adulthood,
Yes.
and transitioning
Yes.
into dating. And,
Yes.
it's just, you're, becoming reborn anyway through puberty and, and just awakening your sexuality.
Absolutely.
And so I feel like a lot of kids are questioning themselves. They might say to the family, "Well, I'm transgendered," or I'm bisexual," and the family's like, "What?" And they get mad about it and they're like, "You don't know what you're talking about." And I think that it's important that, we respect these kids and we just go along with what they think, make sure that they know. Like if they're going to say they're transgendered and maybe they're not because nobody ever saw them, were no signs beforehand.
Right.
It's not, I don't think it's right or very healthy for the adults in the family to say, "No, you're not," or "What about this?" You know,
Right.
let's just respect them for, it wasn't easy for them to come out, whatever they
No,
think is going on, whether it is what's going to be the same 10 years from now or not. Let's just respect them and say, "Well, thank you
very
for
true.
telling me," and call them whatever they want to be called. You know, I think,
What's it gonna hurt? I mean,
right,
it may save a life. And then let's think
right,
about this other aspect of it. The more we shame people, especially young people,
right.
for anything, I mean, we could even take gender out of it and say we shame them for their body shape, or we
Hmm.
shame them for acne, or we shame them for bad grades. Anytime we begin to shame any other human being, we must realize that we are setting them up to be insecure adults. We're
Yeah,
setting them up to have trauma to have to work through as adults. And if they even do, we could
yeah,
be sending them towards addiction, because I know shame
right.
was a huge part of my addiction. We have to think about what's And it may be shocking in the moment, and I
Yeah.
really get that. Let's be
Yeah.
real, we can understand that. It might be
Yeah.
shocking in the moment. But I remember when our son came back to us, and his behavior was really off the charts, and we couldn't understand. And I remember going to we put ourselves through these parenting classes because we were at the end of our rope with
Mhm.
trying every rigid thing that we had known as growing up, and these things didn't work. And I
Mhm.
remember them telling us to ignore the bad behavior,
Mhm.
reward what you want, ignore what you don't, as long as he's not in a position to hurt himself or someone
Yeah.
else. Well, I thought that that was ludicrous. How do you ignore this? It
Mhm.
was me having to shift a mindset.
Mhm.
I'm not suggesting that we ignore these children. I am suggesting that we understand that, like you said, they're
Mhm.
young. They
Right.
are to put ourselves back in that situation where we understand that, hey, we were once there questioning
Mhm.
everything. We were once trying to figure ourselves out. We don't have to jump on board and attack
Right.
everything that they do. You can kind of hands off, just monitor the
Let them
situation.
be. Yeah.
Let
Let them
them be.
self explore. Yeah.
Yes. And then remember that our intense reactions to things
Mhm.
are about us, and they're not about them. And that's where we are given the invitation to do our own inner work.
Mhm.
I spoke to a really, I consider her a pretty good friend. And she's been so accepting of me and my transition and everything. And we talked, and she said to me, she said, well, my daughter told me that she was bisexual. And I said, well, how did you feel about that? She said, I gotta be honest. She said, I wasn't real happy about it, but I did understand that, this is my daughter, and that, I've got to support, because I support her.
Right.
I have to support this decision. She's going to make many decisions in her life that,
Mhm.
I as a parent am not going to enjoy or would not want to be
Right.
what I planned for her. And I respect that. I respect that honesty. But I also respect the fact that, she stepped back to just show support. And I think
Mhm.
that that does a lot for your relationship with your child. And that
Yeah.
does a lot for that child's ability to, be able to be who they are in a world. Because the world wants to shut you down. The world wants to shut you down.
Yeah, if you don't understand or you don't know what they're talking about, rather than, attacking, or coming at the child, the teen or the young adult, you know, look it up, get some resources, look it up, and then, have a serious conversation with them if they want to. By attacking, they're not going to share things with you. And like you said, then that causes shame, which may cause, all kinds of other issues. And, you have to think about, do you want to have a good relationship with your child? Also, this is, like you said, this is your child, or this is your niece or nephew or grandchild, whatever it is, the young adult in your family, you know, um, try to look at them as the soul. This, who is a person on the inside? Who is this person? They're still the same person. And if they're coming out as, whatever they're coming out as, they're showing you a part that they've hidden, or a part that they're just now awakening. And so they're kind of revealing bits of themselves that were not easy for them to come out and say.
That's right.
So, give them that respect and honor them for, sharing with you, even if you don't understand, or even if you don't like it. And then you want to explore yourself. Why don't I like this? Why is this bothering me? Am I worried for their safety? Or is it because I don't understand it?
And also remember that a lot of times you're their first line before they come
Yeah.
out into the world. And if they're looking to you to try to figure out how safe they're going to be in the world, to
Yeah.
validate that they're okay. And when you shut them down and you say nope, that's not okay, or give them things like you're going to hell, you're, all of
Mhm.
these things that we do to try to scare somebody,
Yeah.
into our normal, then, that automatically just shuts them down. And now, you know, they need a support. If you don't, like, I'm going into a business that I care a lot about, a treatment center that I care a lot about this Thursday, to do their annual sensitivity training
Mm.
towards these subjects. And that's what I try to convey to them, is make sure that people know that they're in a safe space when they walk through the door, whether you have an ally sticker, whether you have something that's welcoming that lets people know this is a
Yeah.
safe space, because that building may be the only safe space that that human being gets to visit on that day, or
Yeah.
in that week, or that month. And it's sad that we talk about what a privilege being cisgendered truly is.
Yeah.
Not that anyone should, you know, not that anyone should feel guilty, or have anything about being cisgender, but realize how awesome being comfortable in your own skin is. Being that you don't have to hide something that's so
Mhm.
personal, and think about what that means to you, how special it is for you to be able to walk down the street and feel, you know
Yeah.
I'm okay, I'm confident. And
Yeah.
just
People we can't
remember.
even imagine what it would be like.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And just remember that not everybody in this world is experiencing that same bit of safety. I
Right.
know I've been attacked for being who I am, not more than two times in my life.
Yeah.
So, you know, that causes, that trauma causes a lot of people that you'll meet that will either be part of the alphabet mafia, that will, be trans, to be very guarded. And
Yeah.
sometimes when you ask questions, and you feel like you are attacked back, just try to remember sometimes that those people have to keep a guard up at all
Yeah.
times that maybe you don't have to keep up. And I often equate living an active addiction lifestyle, like living in a war zone every
Mhm.
single day. You never know who beside you, or if it's going to be you that gets taken out that day. Whether
Mhm.
you're on the run from going to jail or death, you're constantly trying to outrun jail or death
Yeah.
every single day. Well, that doesn't end for people that get clean and sober, like myself, trans
Mhm.
people, or gay, lesbian, bisexual people. And sometimes those things are a bit easier to hide than being trans. But I think having conversations like this, and us trying to
Yeah.
put ourselves in the place of another person as much as we can, and then just trying to understand the rest.
Yeah.
And I want to say this before I say some good evenings to people that are here. Um, I want to say this to the people that are experiencing those family members that just refuse to acknowledge them. Don't think that, don't take what they say necessarily, or their inability to see you for who you are, as that's your experience with everybody in the world. I urge you to find your tribe. I urge
Yes.
you to find people there that make you feel safe.
Right.
I urge you not to put yourself in a dangerous situation where you try to shove back down that is truly you. And I think that if you can become, despite what your outside influence is, if you can continue to become the best possible and healthiest version of you, meaning that what they say is not truth, regardless of what it is. If it's negative, it's not truth about you. That, just like the title is, you were born to be free and you were created to be you. And hold on to that hope, because the more you keep trying to push it down, the more it's going to keep coming up, and it will come out in your life in many different ways. I mean, many harmful ways. Just what? Just be careful. Just be careful, because people have strange ideas
Yeah.
about these sorts of things.
I
And
would
so,
like to bring up, you were talking about people being, having to be aware of where they're, shopping and just going out places. I have a family member that's, bisexual, lesbian, they've been together for many years and they just got married. And um, one of the couple had, was body shamed and bullied shopping for their wedding clothes. And it just broke my heart. I mean, that they're a beautiful couple. They're obviously, it's so obvious that they're, absolutely in love, um, and on the day that you're shopping for your wedding clothes, and
yeah.
still you're, because she was going for a suit, whereas
Hmm.
the other one was going for a traditional wedding dress.
Yeah.
So I imagine, I don't even know, but she was going into these, more of tuxedo type places, but getting body shamed and getting bullied. And this is, it just breaks my heart that people have to go through that. And so another thing is, on Breakthrough Hypnotherapy on my website, I had decided to put up a little flag that said friend, ally, safe. And
Good.
when I was first deciding to do this, I was asking or putting it out there sort of anonymously, like on Reddit and stuff, and places that you can be anonymous and forums and stuff, asking about that. And so many people were like, why do you have to display that? Shouldn't they know, or why do they have to tell people, or whatever it is? But that really showed me that that really is so important, that people need to know that they're going to be safe coming to you, especially when it comes to
Absolutely.
mental health. They want to know that you're, say a safe person, and that they don't have to hide anything, or don't have to worry about what they say or tell you, um, or how they present themselves or anything. um, but that just really surprised me that people were like so against just putting up a little one little just one little thing to say, that you're safe
Everybody's
with me.
welcome. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
And I commend you for doing that. I thank you for doing that.
yeah.
Like I said, you may be. I equate it to the same thing that happens when you're in recovery from active
Mhm.
addiction and you need to go to the doctor.
Right.
Many times you want to be up front because
Mhm.
your life can depend on it,
Mhm.
and yet you don't know, is this doctor going to shame me? Am I
Right.
going to be treated unfairly because of how this person, their personal feelings about addiction, or who they now think I am because of one statement. You say
Mhm.
something that is detrimental to your health. Because I want to just say, I'll say this, you know, I've gone almost under the knife, under surgery, before telling a doctor that I was on a medication assisted treatment
Mhm.
years ago. And I was just so scared to be treated unfairly because I had
Yeah.
experienced that in my life. So I didn't want to, but I knew that if I didn't tell them that very important part of who I am, or what my medical history, that they could give me a medication that I may not come out of,
Yeah.
or they may not give me enough and I may, wake up during surgery.
Mhm.
So when people are used to being treated bad and abused, they need to see that. And
Yeah.
again, I pose the question back to those people that refuse to acknowledge that there are different people in the world. Why? Like, what is it in you that again makes it okay for you to display who you are,
Mhm.
and then not again. And I hate to go here, but I have to, because this is where a lot of it comes from. Many people will go back to what they perceive as biblical,
Mhm.
and yet they're willing to beat you with that stick, but they don't beat themselves with that same stick.
Mhm.
Whether all of that is metaphysical or it turns out to be literal.
Yeah.
Either way, how do we hold one person to a standard that we're not willing to live at ourselves? We can't co-sign our own bullshit with things that we read or think gives us a leg up. And
Mhm.
we've got to learn how to respect other people, because if the shoe was on the other foot, if the shoe were on the other foot, you would want to be respected. It's like
Mhm.
when I was talking to my mom about all of this, and I said, well, what if you woke up in the world tomorrow and the world was different? Could you choose now to be a lesbian? Let's just say that's how the world, that was normal. Could you choose tomorrow to, could you pretend and force yourself to now be in a full on lesbian relationship? And of course not. Of course
Right.
not.
Right.
It's the same.
Right.
And
What
I,
if you had to hide that you were, married to the opposite sex? Or what if you had to hide that you
absolutely.
were attracted to the opposite sex? That you, yeah, what if that
Absolutely.
wasn't accepted in the
What,
world?
yeah, what if? What if, and I say this too for women. Look how far women have had to fight
Hmm.
just to get to where we are in the world with women and women's rights, and how much women had to go through. And I think some of that is still living. When we talk about a lot of prejudice and judgment, we got to talk about generational stuff. We got to talk
Hmm.
about ways that these people are taught to believe through generations,
Well,
because
I think that's why some of these folks that are, my age or older, or even
Mhm,
my generation, whatever they are, a few years with on each side or whatever, I think that's part of it. When I was in high school, it would have been the most terrible thing to be called gay, you
mhm.
know. So
Even when I was in high school, yep.
yeah, so when you have somebody in your family that's saying, you know, and when I was in high school too, we didn't know any other word than gay.
Mhm,
I never heard of anybody transgender at that time, or, or even, I guess I don't even remember if I knew lesbian, it was just all gay.
mhm. Yep, I didn't know the word either when I first heard it. I was like, what is that?
So, but yeah, and queer was, was a put down. It
Mhm,
was, now it's more of, like you said, the Q is like questioning, and I think queer is more of like an umbrella of, it's either questioning or it's like anything goes kind of a
right,
thing.
right.
Not, and it's more than bisexual. It's, maybe they are comfortable in their skin, maybe they're not, maybe sometimes they are and sometimes they're not. Maybe it's like a non-binary thing where sometimes they're, identify more with or present more as one sex or the other, and then the next month or the next day they feel more the other way. And gender doesn't even have to, you know why does it even have to be such a, it's really such a social construct. But
It's, yeah, it's a label, and those
yeah.
labels often limit. We can't live beyond our label. So whatever we've labeled ourselves, that's the box we're confined to. And I think
Yeah.
that's what really, I think again too, when we talk about what really screws people up, is that our human brain needs to label things, and it's
Yeah.
used to things being clear cut and labeled. I've had to ask myself this with non-binary, when
Hmm.
I'm like, I don't understand. And what I take into effect is, like we're talking about, my age,
Hmm.
what I've experienced, and then I take apart the human brain. How do we process this? How do we look at everything? Because how we relate to one thing's how we relate to everything. So is it the lack of the label that bothers me the most? And I think that's it. It's
Yeah.
not that the human is not human to me,
Right.
it's that there's a lack of a label. So I don't have, my brain doesn't have an immediate definition. So I believe, oh, okay. And I had so a really good friend of mine, I'll be real quick with this. I'm really very proud of him. He is a cisgendered male, and his 10-year-old daughter came out to him as non-binary and asked him first to call, use they them pronouns.
Hmm.
And people
That's
hear
him.
that and they go, that's hard. That's hard to do. How can I call them they, them? That's plural, and this, the other. Just because something's hard doesn't mean we don't do it.
Right. It was
And
hard
we're,
for her or him to say,
yes,
I am
absolutely.
non-binary, and that person, that little 10-year-old must have done some of their own research, to
Yep.
even have that word, that label in their vocabulary.
Yeah.
So they have already been thinking about this and looking it up and researching, or just watching some stuff, or I don't know, but they've already been exploring,
Yeah.
if they're going to say that at 10,
Yeah. And
and
they're
I think,
testing. Go ahead.
yeah, I think
Well,
that
they're,
the younger ones are the ones that are saying, you know, I don't want to be, I want to be a boy, or I want to be a girl, or I, want to, I don't like this part of my body, or I don't want to grow up and be like mom, I don't want to have
mm-hmm.
to wear a bra and that, and I don't want to have to, you know, not, I don't want to have to, wear a bikini or a dress or whatever, or they identify more with the opposite sex, or whatever way it is, they don't have those words. But when a 10-year-old says I'm non-binary, that means, to me, that's been going on for a while
Yeah.
before they ever said it.
Yeah. They've been exploring, and whoever
Yeah.
it is that they tell is who they feel
Mhm.
inherently the safest with.
Yeah.
And I commend him, and
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that he's supportive, because
Mhm.
like I said to him, as while you're being supportive and you're the only person in the family that she's told,
Mhm.
you are giving her the ability to get her legs strong under you.
Yeah.
Her identity is being built so that when she is ready to be who she is in the world, whether she stays in this
Right.
non-binary, and I am using she because that was where she
Okay.
came from, and I
Yeah.
say that because sometimes I wonder if it's easier for girls or if it's easier for boys. This is where we get into that toxic
Mhm.
masculinity. And so, but I'm really grateful that this beautiful little human has a
Mhm.
safe space
Yes.
to be who they are. And this, I'm really proud of my friend for being the kind of dad that is supportive, and that
Yeah.
that offers this place for you to grow. I think that's
Yes.
so important for us. Why don't we have to offer young people a place to grow?
And we don't have to understand it.
We
This
don't.
a person in your family, a loved one, especially a younger loved one, they're part of you. You love that little one, and can't you look at it as that person is that person regardless of gender or labels? They're still the same person in there, and in fact, they may be more of themselves, more, you know, just feeling more secure in themselves by coming out and telling you, or telling people, and support that they are exploring it, even if it changes. And I know we don't like to say, that it could change, but when they're first exploring, then yeah, maybe it will, they'll have a better idea of, how they really identify and what really fits, what really fits,
Yeah,
what
exactly.
clothes, what body,
Yeah,
what fits for them and feels the most right and true for them within themselves. Support that exploration,
absolutely. Absolutely.
do
It's
the
better.
research with them if they need research, if they're not sure what labels to use and they need labels. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really, I think that's great and profound advice, because don't we're sending young people. I mean, young people have been the catalyst of change for every generation. I mean,
Yeah.
we are where we are right now through technology because of the young people that came along and saw this vision for the future. I have to believe that the young people now that are exploring less labels about gender and sexuality is because we are evolving into a consciousness that is less about labels.
Yeah.
The labels keep
Yeah.
us sick so many times because if we have a label of what's successful and what's not, then we feel like a failure when we're not living up to that label. When
Right.
we call ourselves, I'm an addict, we
Hmm.
cannot live past that label. And so we have to understand how binding labels truly are. And if you really
Right.
started doing the research in your own life and your own healing, you'll find how many situations you are healing from that originate in labels and shame.
Yeah.
So we had some other questions. We're at 40 minutes now. So I want to make sure that we talked about, you had someone else that talked about dating, right? So talk to me about
Yeah.
that.
So I've had, every question that I got, I had more than one person ask me the same question. So I've
I
had a few
love it.
questions, a few people asking me a few questions, and they were the same questions. So that's really interesting to me. And I love that because it really
Me
shows
too.
where we need to focus on,
Yes.
the discussion. Um,
Yes.
yeah, so when somebody is going through these changes or these self-exploring, who they are, you might be confused dating and you feel unworthy, or you feel like I'm not sure who I'm attracted to, who I'm supposed to be attracted to, or if I said that I was bisexual, or if I said that I was gay or lesbian, am I then allowed to, is it okay for me to then say, oh, well, maybe I am attracted to that female or that male or whatever, after I've already said this, I've made this declaration that I'm gay.
I've created
Well,
this
guess what?
label.
Now I'm attracted to a female and I'm a male.
Um,
So who am I really then? So
yep.
they're confused within themselves, but also sometimes don't feel worthy of that anybody's going, because they've had so much body issues themselves, confusion within themselves, and then maybe even being rejected from family, you
Mm.
know that, or and being made fun of, and body shaming and everything else, and being shamed and bullied for maybe dressing not to what they appear their gender is, or whatever it is, um, that they just don't even date, they don't even go there,
Well,
and they
it's
don't feel
confusing.
worthy. So
Yeah.
yeah, so what, I mean, I know that you and your wife have been together a long time, but what advice would you have for people, younger people, that are going through some of this, trying to identify with, or figure out, who they really are as far as um, their sexual identity or their gender identity, you know, where would you, what would you give them advice about
Well, body dysphoria is
dating?
really, really real, and that's what we have to really understand. That especially, and especially I say as we start to get older. So the longer that you have, when you've come from, say, a generation like I've come from, where there's been a lot of shame surrounding, and when you've carried a big secret. So I carried my big secret for a long time. So when my body began to change and morph out on me, during puberty as female, it was very dysphoric for me. And I didn't have the word dysphoric, but it was just, you didn't want anybody to see you because you
Hmm.
didn't like to see you.
Yeah.
I think for anybody, and let's not forget, if you are going through transition, hormones change us.
Hmm.
I have come to study this, I think, just through my own experience and what I've learned through just researching this, that hormones play a huge part in sexual attraction. I have found this to be true myself. And I think that, if we did more research about that, we would find so much that is true, that hormones. And so a lot of times I have been witness to many people that maybe thought that they were female to male transgender and were always attracted to female, but then start going through transition and become
Mhm.
attracted to males.
Yeah.
To me, what I've come through in just my own research and study about that is that maybe sometimes that attraction to females makes you more male when you're in that
Mhm.
pre-transition phase. That if I'm attracted to females, then that makes me feel more male,
Right.
and that's how I want to feel anyway. And
Mhm.
now, hormones come in, and now you're really experiencing yourself, your inner body as male. And now it's almost like you're finding out that, well, maybe I am attracted to men. And what does that mean? Because now I got to
Yeah.
figure out a new label. So now, does that make me gay? Or now, what does this make me?
Right. What is my label now?
What is my now label? And also, people told there's a line in a movie that means so much to me because I heard it myself from my grandmother. You know, when you watch the movie Rocket Man, which is Elton John's story, one thing his mother says to him when he finally just comes out as gay is, "You'll never be loved properly." And I remember being told that by my grandmother,
Wow.
not in a very evil connotation like,
More of
they
a
portrayed his
concern.
mother,
Yeah.
more of a concern that,
Yeah.
you're never going to be loved.
Right.
And she was from a generation that they were females and they got married, and that's where their security came from. And when I came out to her as being lesbian, she says, "But you're never going to truly find love."
Mm,
That sticks with a young person.
yeah.
That becomes a hopeless statement.
Yeah.
That again, you internalize, and it goes right along with you. You put it in the box that's got your body dysphoria, you put it in the box of all your shameful things. And if it's hard enough for a regular, just say heterosexual
Mhm.
cisgendered couple to open their shame boxes, which we all have, it's that much harder for someone who's been carrying these big secrets around to reveal that. And it's very hard to make yourself vulnerable to present, and for trans humans it's very difficult because many people don't identify in the world as, "I'm a trans male" or "I'm a
Right.
trans female." They stealthily say, "I'm male, I'm female," and they will hold themselves from intimate relationships
Mhm.
because, "I've got a secret and you
Mhm.
can't know it, and I'm always protecting this secret."
Yeah.
And as we know, I'm sure most of us by now know about the Brandon Tina story, which happened in, I think it was 1992, where, Brandon Tina was obviously a transgendered, female to male, but never had surgeries and was killed
Mhm.
for being exposed for who he really
Yeah.
was. It's dangerous. These are things we always keep in the back of our mind.
Right.
So I think my advice for people that are going through that is work on getting comfortable with yourself first. I
Yeah.
think that mirror work is amazing, and it sounds crazy to say, be naked in
Mhm.
front of the mirror. Maybe if you don't just go in your whole birthday suit, start with things that are not as dysphoric
Right.
and work your way up to the things that are truly dysphoric. For me, it's a female chest.
Mhm.
So I had to get really comfortable with that and myself. And still, my wife and I have been together for a long time, but we got together as a lesbian couple.
Mhm.
And that was still very uncomfortable for me. The whole intimacy aspect of that. There were things about my body I was not comfortable with. So there were a lot of things that we didn't do, or if we did do those things, it was just so uncomfortable for me
And it
that
wasn't really a good experience. Yeah.
it wasn't. It
Right.
wasn't. And so I was a bit afraid to come out to my wife and say, this is, she had always known. I told her from the beginning, I'm not really a lesbian. I'm trying, I'm really a guy,
Hmm.
but I'm stuck in this body because gosh knows I never thought that it would be possible.
Right.
Um,
And she
but
understood that.
and she understood that as
Yeah.
much as she could, never having
Right.
that experience. And she did her best to try in her way to work with me in those areas to try to make me feel better about myself.
Hmm.
But I don't think another human being can ever truly make you feel better about yourself. I
No,
think that's an inside job.
absolutely.
So my true advice would be to examine how much of the labels you're confining yourself with.
Yeah.
And then number two, start to do a little bit of work on getting comfortable with you. And as you do that, I think subconsciously you begin to build more confidence within yourself. You
Hmm.
start to love who you are. I know that once my body started changing, those parts of me became less dysphoric for me because
Hmm.
I had other things that I could look at and
Right.
say, I'm on my way, or I really like this part of myself. And that was one of the exercises I started doing with myself is instead of being so caught up in what I didn't like about myself, I
Hmm.
really started focusing my mind on what I really did like about myself.
Yeah.
And to this day, I can't grow more than a seventh grade, if that. I'm stretching with seventh grade mustache,
Yeah.
and you know, and so I still will struggle with those little things, but the big
Hmm.
things started to become smaller in my mind and my heart, and the more that I started doing that, the more comfortable I became in other areas, and it just bled out, so to speak. And that's what I would hope. For whatever reason, and I'll look straight into the camera when I say this, for whatever reason you're here on this earth at this time, in the body that you're in, with the transition that you're going through, for a very valuable purpose. And I don't want to ever for anyone to ever think that that's not powerful, that you are a powerful human being just as you are, how you're living. So if you're in the midst of a transition, there's something beautiful that you're here to represent to the world. And I know as a trans person myself that doesn't always feel comfortable, and you don't always want that job. Sometimes you just want to be stealth and just blend in and not have to
And
feel
that's okay
different today.
too.
That's completely okay.
Right.
But for I, I just it took me a while to really grasp that I'm supposed to be who I am.
Hmm.
That I'm not an accident. I'm not a mistake. I'm
It's your
not some
purpose. Absolutely.
yeah. I'm not some crazy messed up experience in God's lab, or whatever you believe is a creator. I'm not here to be tortured. I'm
Right.
here for a mighty purpose. And that's when I started introducing myself as a trans man versus a man, because I believe that there's purpose in that and there's power in that for me. And so that would be
People
what I
need
would
to know
say.
they're not alone,
They need to. They
Hmm.
need to. And I think that empowers us. And
Yeah.
while I believe more in inclusion versus division, I think
Hmm.
it is still very therapeutic for people who are going through the same things
Yeah.
to have a safe place with other people going through that. I mean, we have recovery
Absolutely.
groups, you know, should we only do recovery in recovery groups? No. But is it very valuable sometimes to just go and sit down in a room with other people that think like you or that had
Hmm.
the same hard times? Absolutely. It's valuable. I don't think we should live our lives only with those people, because we get a false sense of safety when we do that, or a
Yeah.
false sense of the world. But I think the world's changing,
It
and
is.
I think that
It is.
I think that you all, as the alphabet mafia, as transgender humans, as cisgender humans that are willing to expand and evolve, are a big part of that change. And I'm grateful for all of you. I love Pam V. I love my friend Joni, who's here. And remember, whatever time you see this video, that we have a private transgender mentor Facebook group that Pamela has created there on Facebook. And if you're not sure if you're in the right place, look for my picture, look for Pamela's picture there, and the people that are in that group, so you know you're in the right place. It's a private group. So
There's a
explain
link
it to her.
on the page. The page is a page and it's open to everybody. It's public.
Yes.
But if anybody has, you might have to go right to transgender mentor page,
Yeah.
and you might not see it come up in your timeline. You might have to go search for it and you will find it. And there is a link there to the group.
Awesome.
Since it's
Awesome.
private, it's not going to be like open everywhere. So you might have to search for it, or reach out to me and I'll send you
Yes.
a direct link to the group, or I'll invite you to
Yes.
it.
Yes, yes, yes. And please take her up on that, because we're not often able to. I don't see other trans people where I live unless I seek them out, in all honesty. Where I live, there's just, it's not always safe to be out and about. So, if you're in a place in the world, or you just don't know how to get out, take this opportunity to be around some people that are saying
Yeah.
you're in a safe space, and places where you can discuss things that are going on, because transitioning comes with its own health issues. And part of the mission of the transgender mentor is to try to help you heal both your soul, and to make sure you're doing things that are healthy for your body. I know for female to males, binding your chest is a huge part of that, pre-surgical. When you do that for an extended length of time, you forget to breathe. It compacts your breathing. So, make sure that you are taking deep breaths at least once an hour, pure deep chest breaths, so that you can keep stuff moving. We'll have other little tips like that as this channel progresses and goes
Right.
on, and we will bring, other people on as well. So if you've got a story to tell,
Hmm.
reach out to Pamela, or myself. Pamela's so much more active right now than I am. Reach out to Pamela, and tell her you've got a story you want to share.
Or
And,
any
and
questions or anything you'd like us to discuss.
absolutely.
You
And just,
can be totally anonymous if you'd like.
yes,
You see, I didn't
yes,
mention any names.
that's
I've
so
had quite a
amazing.
few questions and no names were mentioned. So
I love that. I truly love that. And I love you for doing this. I really am. I think it's
I'm
very
so
therapeutic
honored
for me
because
too.
it's so needed. I mean, there's children, there are 10-year-olds committing suicide because they don't feel comfortable in who they are and their parents have rejected when they tried to. I mean, it's so it's just so unbelievable to me that this is going on in 2021. And I'm honored to be a part of this, to help people that are maybe middle-aged cisgendered to understand what's going on a little bit and maybe have a different perspective. So I thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Well, it's amazing, and I want to say this too to people. If you happen to react, if your child says something to you, a family member says something to you, and you react, clean it up.
Hmm.
Don't be afraid to clean it up. You
You can go
react.
back and say, yeah,
Yeah, just say, look, I'm taken off guard. This is
yeah,
how. Don't don't blame things on, well, that's just how I was raised. I've gotten
right.
that a lot. That's not an excuse
Hmm.
to stay the same,
Right.
but it can be, it makes sense that maybe you've got a reaction there. and
Hmm.
and never, ever, 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 whatever you do, never refer to a trans person as it. If you
Right.
get all confused on gender, be confused and clean that up. Do your best and let them know you're doing your best, but don't
Ask the
ever say
person, what do you
ask.
want me to call you? And then
Yes.
respect that, regardless of if you agree,
Right.
regardless of how you feel about it. They are telling you what they want to be referred to
Right.
as. Respect that.
Right, right. I once told my brother-in-law who refused to call someone in our family by what they were asking to be called. So I just started calling him Nancy or something, and he, would get aggravated. Well, that's not my name. I know, but that's what I'm choosing to call you because, that's what I'm choosing. So sometimes we got to be in each other's shoes a little bit to understand that this is what it feels like. Just because it seems right or wrong to us doesn't mean that that is the truth.
Yes.
And I think that we're going to suffer more that we try to resist this because what do we know? The more you resist, the more something persists.
Right.
It's in your life for a purpose. Don't forget that either. It's in your life for a purpose. And there's something there for you to learn too. So be more open to your experiences. We need respect in this world. That's one of the things we're lacking from human to human is respect. Whatever your difference in the world is, if you're in recovery, you want to be respected as a person that's had your difficulties and yet you're doing your best to try to work on your life. You don't want to be reminded for the rest of your life what a that you're a junkie or of the things that you did in active addiction. Well, it's the same for everyone. Let's lend each other the respect to honor each other's boundaries, honor each other as human beings, as we're all connected. We all have the same needs. And let's keep being open and keep asking questions and keep doing this. I'm so grateful, Pamela. You have a heart that I trust and a motive the same that a trustworthy motive, and so I'm grateful that you are willing to do this with me so much. So Joni Boynton, I love you so much. One of my oldest and dearest friends is Joni Boynton. We've been through a lot together. Pam V, I love you for hanging out and being here for these types of conversations, and this thing will catch on. A lot more people need to
Right.
be involved. So again, reach out to Pamela at hypnobreakthrough.com to sign up for the best hypnotherapy in the world. And remember, if you tell her that LC, Recovery Soul Food, or Transgender Mentor sent you, she's going to give you a free full session, meaning you'll get the intro, you'll get the consultation, the 15-minute, sample session, and then a full free session. And don't make the excuse, well, I can't afford this, or you don't know. So reach out to Pamela and find out what it all entails. Pamela's a great resource, can help you heal those things that are deep within you, holding you back. I love her. I love hypnotherapy. I love all of you all. And get signed up. Transgender Mentor on Facebook,
Yes.
youtube.com. Like and subscribe. Do all those cool things and help us grow. And just be a respectful human. You would want someone to respect you, respect others. I hope we've done some good here tonight, Pamela. I
I think
really
we
do.
thank you.
I think so too. All right, everyone. Until next Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we shall see you again. Pam, this was another amazing conversation. I'm so grateful for you. All right, everyone. See y'all Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. Recovery Soul Food, YouTube, Facebook, and Lona Curry at Facebook.com. See y'all then. Bye.